Almost every textbook tells the exact same story about how money was born. Before coins and bills, early humans simply traded what they had for what they needed, like handing over a fish to get a loaf of bread. The logic seems obvious. What if the baker already has fish but wants shoes? Suddenly, you have a complicated mess of mismatched needs, and to solve it, society supposedly invented money as a universal middleman. Adam Smith proposed this idea in 1776 as a purely logical thought experiment. For nearly 2.5 centuries, we mistook his hypothetical scenario for documented history. When anthropologists finally went looking for these early barter societies, they found nothing. In no culture, on no continent, is there any evidence that a purely barter-driven economy has ever existed. Trading goods directly didn't come before money, it came after. People only revert to barter as an emergency backup when their established financial system completely collapses. If humans weren't swapping fish for bread, how did we actually manage those early economies before cash existed? The answer is surprisingly simple. You helped your neighbor build a roof, and they helped you with your harvest later. There were no transactions or haggling. You just had a community remembering who owed a favor to whom. As towns grew into complex cities, like those in ancient Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago, human memory wasn't enough to keep track of it all, so they invented writing. The oldest texts we have aren't laws or prayers, they are clay tablets recording agricultural debts and promises to repay. The physical objects we usually think of as early money showed up much later. The first minted coins, like this gold piece from Lydia in modern-day Turkey, appeared 2,700 years after people started tracking debts in clay. Humans ran entire civilizations for thousands of years on nothing but recorded promises. The physical coin was an afterthought. The real currency was always the intangible agreement. To see how little the physical object actually matters, we have to look at a tiny island in the Pacific called Yap, back in 1903. The people of Yap used enormous limestone discs as their money. Some of these stones weighed up to 4 tons, about the weight of an elephant. You couldn't lift them, and you couldn't put them in your pocket. They sat exactly where they were carved, often right by the road. When someone bought something, they didn't try to move the stone. The whole village simply agreed that the ownership of the stone had transferred to a new family. You don't need to physically hand an object over for trade to happen. The local economy functioned perfectly because everyone shared a mental consensus of who owned what. Years ago, one Yapese family was transporting a particularly large stone across the ocean by canoe when they hit a severe storm. The stone sank straight to the bottom of the Pacific. Nobody could see it, and nobody could ever retrieve it. Yet the entire island agreed that the stone still existed and that it still belonged to that family, allowing them to keep spending it. That invisible sunken stone at the bottom of the ocean operates on the exact same logic as those 5,000-year-old clay tablets in Mesopotamia. These limestone and clay markers acted as mere placeholders. Value exists in the shared consensus that a debt is real. The mental ledger is the money. Today, we've removed the heavy limestone and clay entirely and replaced them with computer servers. But the core mechanism hasn't changed. Most of us are taught that when you go to a bank for a $10,000 loan, they act as a middleman, handing you cash pulled straight out of another customer's savings account. That is not what happens. The moment you sign the loan contract, that $10,000 is typed into existence on a screen. The bank doesn't move a single pre-existing dollar into your account. Your legally binding promise to repay is what actually generates the new currency. You manifest purchasing power out of thin air just by adding your signature to the contract. Modern banks are operating the exact same system as the Yap Islanders. They are simply updating an invisible ledger based on a promise. The only difference is that now there is absolutely no physical anchor holding the system back. But a weightless digital ledger comes with a built-in mathematical flaw, and it centers on the compound interest attached to your loan. This diagram illustrates a critical structural deficit. If you borrow $10,000, but the bank requires $11,000 back with interest, we run into a physical impossibility. The extra $1,000 you owe was never created. It simply does not exist anywhere in the economy. There is only one mathematical way for you to find that missing money. Somebody else has to take out a brand new loan, injecting fresh cash into the system for you to earn. But now they owe interest too. To prevent the whole structure from freezing up, the system requires an endless, expanding chain of new borrowers. Debt must be continuously generated forever just to pay off the old loans. Our economy functions as an infinite, weightless ledger. This structure demands that society remain in permanent debt just to maintain its own existence.